Before we begin, this video is sponsored by Sleeve Chief. You can find good quality accessories to make your deck and gear look good. Get card protector sleeves with artworks of all your favorite archetypes and cards for the main and extra deck. There's extraordinary border sleeves, and they've got you covered with deck boxes, playmats, and dice as well. Head on over to Sleeve Chief's website through my affiliate link in the description box below and use my code SHADOW at checkout to get 5% off your entire order. Let's begin. Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. So with YCS London concluding just literally a couple minutes ago, I figured I would talk about it. I would do the breakdown, the deck representation, talk about the tech cards, everything we saw on stream. And I want to hear your thoughts about the event in the comments down below, and also if you were there or are still there, how did you like it, if you enjoyed it, and how the experience was. It was a huge YCS, 3,600 players registered, so it was a really big event, and the winning deck ended up being Spright. But first, let's talk about the most represented cards in people's decks. A lot of times they were mentioned by the commentators. So from what I gathered, the most represented card in people's decks was Ash, which is no surprise with it being really strong against Branded, because a lot of times if you're not maining the card, you are at least citing it for that matchup. So, and overall it's just very generic and really good, so a lot of people played it. And the next most played card, if I'm not mistaken, was Evenly Matched, which also pretty self-explanatory. It is overwhelmingly strong if it's able to resolve against a lot of decks and you really make sure your opponent is down a lot of cards. And among the other highly represented cards were Thrust and Kurikara. And we also saw a lot of people play Grave of the Separation Organism, Droll, and specifically Gamma. Gamma was played in a lot of different decks, which is cool because it acted as an extender in some of them, specifically in Spright. And then Droll, of course, it's really strong against a ton of decks in this current meta, but it's just a bit lackluster sometimes when you're not exactly paired up with a deck that gets hindered by Droll, and a lot of people decided to main it as well. So at that point it becomes kind of a deck card because it's not as generic as maining something like Ash, for example, but it still saw a lot of play. And Tasking was played together with Talents because it's like pretty much the best target for Tasking, but there's a lot of different cards you're able to search, and also for this card a lot of people used it. Like some Kashtira players are able to just search for a Theosis, whatever you want literally. You can give yourself plays, you can search for going second cards against the opponent. Then Grave of the Separation Organism is really strong against Kashtira and Branded, and a lot of people thought that those are going to be the most represented decks. Let's just mention the last card on this list, and then we're going to actually move over to the representation and talk about that. But the last card I wanted to mention, I already mentioned, but I wanted to elaborate on, is Kurikara. We saw it on stream quite a lot. A lot of people played it. A card like Kurikara actually managed to close games. And as for the breakdown that I mentioned, so as you can see, if we look at the deck representation from day one, with 19%, which is not high at all compared to the last format, is Kashtira. And then we have Branded and Spright on pretty much the same percentage. And then slightly lower Runic, Labyrinth, and Swordsoul, and then a lot of other decks. So, you know, the format is insanely diverse. We discussed about that already, but there are a couple decks that you know for a fact should be prepared for, and I think this representation pretty much explains it. Like, it is that way at pretty much every single big event you're going to be going to, at least I think so. What's really interesting is the big amount of Kashtira compared to its representation in day one that actually made it to top cut, because at 19% on day one, top 64 actually features 41% of Kashtira, so almost twice as much. The next deck, Spright, which is at 16% in top 64, we had so many different versions on stream. We literally saw Adventure Spright, there was Runic Spright, it's also played with Life Twin, and the Runic variant grants you the ability to play Vanity's Fiend, as we saw on stream, because your Runic cards basically just give you level 2s without you committing to the normal summon, which is really strong. And as for Runic variants, there were so many of those. There's literally so many different engines you're able to play together with Runic. There's Runic Naturia, there is Runic for Hire, there's also Runic together with Spright, and it just goes to show how broken of an engine it is. Like, it is just able to amass so many resources. Your opponent literally just gets overwhelmed. You're drawing into your engine, you're drawing into non-engine, and that's pretty much what you need to win. And moving on to the other represented decks, Mathmech, we saw different types of Mathmech on stream. It's just cool seeing the deck be able to perform again. especially because it wasn't exactly great in the last format. As for Labyrinth, the deck was featured quite a bit. It's the go-to deck for a lot of people, and there's many different versions of it, specifically when we're mentioning the Labyrinth monster count, because the deck is struggling with consistency a lot, so you need monsters to get, like, you need your starters pretty much, even if that means you need to dedicate some of that space that would otherwise go to your trap cards that are able to stop the opponent. So there's that. But mentioning Labyrinth, I also wanted to say something else. So what happened on stream with the virus combo, like Eradicator, at least Eradicator, if not other cards, are seen in pretty much every Labyrinth build almost. And then on stream we saw the virus combo where the entire hand of the opponent was ripped pretty much because they had spells, and they also got hit with the full force virus. And I wanted to mention this because, like, should a card like Eradicator even exist? Should it be legal? I want to hear your thoughts, because I really dislike it when cards like literally prevent you from playing, and I think they're taking some steps in the direction of banning those cards like they did with Artifact Scythe, but still we're not exactly where we should be with that. So a card like this probably should get hit, because especially now that they banned Red Reboot, so you don't have as many like options to go up against it. I don't know, like I get that people will play cards that make them win more. I would too, like it's just the way we are, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. But if those cards do get banned, I still think that's okay too. Rika has a new package, the theory and stuff in it as well, and I just think that deck is so cool, just underrated completely. Like people do not know what it does, and it's just so cool to see it play. I think it's a very, very formidable combo deck, and we mentioned branded with a very low conversion rate. It's just what it is when a deck has very like just hard counters like Ash and D-Barrier, and it's also quite familiar to people because it's been out for long enough. It just won't have conversion rates, and it won't do as well because. And then we got to the finals, and it ended up being Spright against Kashtira. But still, for Runic for Hire to make it this far, I think it's an amazing accomplishment. Also, when Dinka Boy won with Prank Kids, pretty sure it was YCS Milan, it was just so cool seeing a random deck pretty much make it in such a meta that we had back then. And right now, the same player with the rogue strategy making it this far, I think it's just so great. So props to Dinka Boy for sure for making it this far. And as for the final, Spright versus Kashtira, in the end, Spright was able to win it. And this honestly isn't a surprise. Spright is a very, very consistent deck, and a lot of people turn to it right now with a lot of like just hype and good successes with the deck in recent times. Adventure Spright, Malfi Spright, and all of that. And people were like, oh, okay, I still have my Spright cards. I'll just try it with Spright again, because we just needed some time to just really realize as a whole community how Spright should be played. And props go to the players that come up with those versions. It's cool watching a stream where a lot of different decks see play, and just it was insanely enjoyable. And speaking of decks, to really round all of this off, we saw decks like Runic for Hire, Bistio Control, Gate Guardian, Goki, Hero, Mathmech, and Rika win matches on stream, and some of these ones are a little better than others, but like stuff like Gate Guardian, like seeing an amazing win, like I genuinely popped, and I think a lot of people did. It was a cool event to watch, obviously very monumental, and like I said before, I'm super hyped to finish watching the other YCS stuff, and keep an eye out for my coverage of the LA YCS as well. And if you like this one, please make sure to like it, and like I said before, let me know what you thought of the event, if you went there or if you just watched from home, in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next coverage video. Bye!